part of the job did you like the best?
A recent case was a resident that had had a stroke. He was in working age still. He came over from Portugal 20 years ago. He worked for a hotel, lived on site, he was a waiter. He did regain some strength, and then he was moved to Accent. When I first visited him, I wasn't sure he'd be able to live in one of our properties at all. He was moved to a sheltered court. It's for over 55s, so there's somebody on site all the time. They're not carers, but they're on site, so there's always somebody to help out if there was a problem. He was moved in by social services with a bed and a chair. He had no income at all. No, they hadn't sorted out any benefits. It was quite frustrating. Because of his stroke, he was physically disabled. He could walk a little bit, but he'd really struggle. His speech, he had his accent, but at the same time, the stroke had really impacted him in a way that really made it hard for him to speak. You could see that he'd really lost his confidence because a few weeks ago, he was this working man with a big team of people around him that he'd grown to believe his family. And then all of a sudden, it's like he'd been abandoned and had no one else around him. It was such a sad thing to see. When I started working with him, first things, we arranged to get some furniture in his house. We started off with providing food parcels. There was quite a lot of work with sorting out his benefits. He was on employment. He was entitled to employment support allowance. But despite being in the country for 20 years, they had trouble completing their habituance test. It's to prove that you've been in the country and you're entitled to benefits. He'd paid all his taxes here. His employers were being really strange. Even though he'd worked there for 20 years, they wouldn't supply any confirmation that he had. I had all historic wages, but they wanted a statement from him. That when DWP were trying to phone him to ask him the questions that they've got to ask on this mandatory test, because of his stroke, he struggled to pick up the phone, and I think that it might be 8 or 9 times that he'd hang up, and then they'd write to him to say, we've not been able to complete your test, so you're not awarded it. I had to escalate it to a complaint to get the payment in place. I answered the questions on his behalf, but it took a lot of pushing for them to allow me that access, because I wasn't next of kin. I didn't have any court-appointed authority. It was really quite hard. Eventually, when I launched into a complaint, they accepted my statement to say that he lived in one of our properties and he was no longer under the care home, and they backdated him a payment of £1,000 that he was rightly entitled to, but he lived for so long under hardship. The difference as well in him, when I think it lasted about 3 months of the support. In the beginning, I can only really describe him as quite broken. He was like his spirit. He had no pride. He had no money, no food. He was just completely dependent on anyone who would give him the help. But he had no confidence that somebody would give that help to him. By the end of it, to have the money in place, his little flat was furnished. It was looking more like a home. He didn't have to rely on me to bring food parcels to him anymore, and he'd even started to take really small journeys down to the shop to build the strength up in his legs, really slowly. But it's almost like he was like healing in front of my eyes. It's the only way I can describe it. It still makes me quite emotional. It was one of the best outcomes I've had.
Oh, that's lovely, that.
When you first moved to your Accent property, were you hesitant about moving?
No. No, because it was near my daughter. When I was shown the flat, it was empty. It had never been, nobody had lived in it. So I must admit, I really loved it when I first moved in. So never regret it. I love the flat.
What's your name and where have you come from?
My
today?
name's Suzanne Smith and I come from Carambley in Surrey.
Okay. And what do you do?
Unemployed at the moment.
Okay.
How did you accidentally become an accent tenant?
Back in 1991, I needed to relocate fairly quickly from Manchester to Bradford. And my mum had an accent flat in Bradford. And so I camped down with her a bit, really, because I was working in Bradford and I stayed at my mum's. And then she had the bright idea, short term, to get a slightly bigger flat so I could return home, which I did. But she unexpectedly died right out of the blue. She, you know, was only 61. And I was lucky to succeed to the tenancy. I was really anxious and unsure because I didn't think I'd be able to take over the tenancy. So on top of losing my mum really unexpectedly, I had the nervousness and hassle and uncertainty of wondering if I'd have to find somewhere to live. So it worked out well in the end. Accent were very supportive, helped me through it all, and it was good. It was a happy ending, really, if there is such a thing. So, Suzanne, tell me a bit about your story, how you got into being an accent tenant.
Basically, we got into it because we were made homeless from our previous landlord, and we were kind of like then living apart. And so I was like sofa surfing, and husband was kind of living out the car and like living at the office, and we basically just got into accent just by applying for applying for a flat, and we got it, and we were like both really happy to be back together again after the hard struggle of being apart.
Yeah. And do you feel a lot more settled now that you've got your flat? Yeah.
We do, we sold. How did you used to see housing associations, and have your experiences changed your view of them?
Well, I think sometimes there's a bit of a stigma about housing associations, and I think it's not helped by lots of negative telly like Channel 5's Can't Pay Will Take It Away and things like, you know, it's almost as if, you know, it's a sort of second tier, a second class, and they're looked upon as scroungers. But I don't believe that. I think social housing's there for a purpose. I was at a particularly low time when I got my tenancy in 1992, and I suppose you could argue that I should have moved on, but I got settled and I was working hard, and then of course by the time I turned round I was retired. I was coming up to retirement, so I didn't really want to start again. So yeah, I think sometimes social housing gets a bit of a bad name, and I think it's quite unjust and unfair.
Why do you choose to work in housing?
I chose to work in housing because I wanted to do something that I felt made a difference to people, and it's something that is a human need. You know, everybody needs a home, and I want to be part of making sure everybody has a home where they feel safe and happy to build their lives.
So it's quite a satisfying
Absolutely, yeah, very.
job to do.
Yeah.
What has your journey been through the Accent as a company?
Oh, right, quite a long journey, because I've actually, this time next year, I'll have been with Accent 30 years.
Yeah.
Which I can't quite believe myself, to be honest. It is a long time.
Yeah.
I've done a massive variety of jobs. I started off as a housing assistant, so, you know, sort of frontline job, dealing with people's queries, and then stayed on the housing management side, so a housing officer, you know, looking after people like yourself who live in our properties, making sure they're repaired. And I got opportunities to progress. I did a couple of secondments to other housing organisations, so got to learn about lots of different housing associations and how they deliver services. But I've always stayed really committed to housing. And as of January, just last month, I got made the Executive Director of Customer Experience. So that's responsible for all our 22,000 homes, making sure the customers that live in them get them well looked after and get the services and support they need when they need it. So
it's job satisfaction, isn't it?
Huge, yeah, massive job. But I've been really lucky to have so many different opportunities. It's never been boring. You know, I've had lots of opportunities for different jobs in my time there, and I've ended up with what I think for me is the perfect job.
That's great.
Can you tell us a bit about where you previously lived and your landlord?
Yes, we lived 27 years on the Stray in Harrogate, facing the Strait, which is a really lovely area. I'd previously been in a bought house, I was buying a detached house, and then due to divorce, a friend said to me, I've bought some apartments, would you like one for the time being? We liked it so much where it was, we stayed 27 years. Wow. But he actually sold them off after 15 years for the money he wanted to invest in other things. And the landlord that came down wasn't anywhere near the same calibre at all. We had rent rises at £50 a month for the first year, the second year, the third year, so it was £50 rent rises all the time. And in the end, we started saying that this wasn't affordable. So I thought he'd put it up to £100 a month instead. I said, well, this is even worse now, but the idea was he wanted obviously rid of us, but we were assured tenants, so we had no intention of going anywhere until we decided we wanted to. We'd done nothing wrong. So I put the rent up to £300 a month. So obviously this was getting ridiculous. So he took us to court to get rid of us. It cost him £2,500 and the court kicked it out. They said we'd done nothing wrong, we're assured tenants, and he had no reason to do this, and these rent rises were unreasonable. So then he tried to take us to a tribunal, which we were glad because we wanted to, speak our corner. Yeah. And the tribunal again said there's no reason why we should be paying this kind of rent, and they were going to come and value the property. By which time we'd been putting feelers out, and Accent House came up, and that was a new build, and we were glad to get away from that situation and more back into an assured tenancy. And we just thought, it was in a village, it was the right side of town for us, and it's been really good so far. Good. Yeah.
Excellent. Before it happened to you, did you realise how easy it could be to be made potentially homeless unexpectedly?
Well, it's an awful feeling, isn't it? Because once that security's gone out of your life, when we took over this friend's property, we had a good relationship. Yeah. We never thought anything would happen. He wanted this place for life. And of course, when this unknown landlord stepped in, we never felt comfortable, ever. And our worst nightmare sort of began to appear. It got worse and worse.
How did you used to see housing associations before you started to?
I never really thought about them because I never thought I'd be in a position like it. I mean, life's strange at throwing things at you. This came out of the blue. Everything that was being done to us turned out better in the end. All the worry and all the insecurity seems to have faded away. So
that's fantastic.
And the neighbours so far are turning out to be good, which is always a worry in a new property. So yeah.
Well, I'm sure you're a lovely neighbour to live next to as well.
We try to be. Yeah.
That's it from me.
Yeah, and me. Thank you very much. Yeah.
If you could go for a drink with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Probably my nan, I'd imagine.
Oh. She passed away.
Yeah, and she was living with us for 5 years before she passed, so we kind of got quite close.
Oh, bless. What is your role within Accent, and what does that entail?
So, as the housing officer, we the main role is to maintain the tenancies. So, for example, repairs, issues with neighbours, maintaining obviously the whole process from when they moved into the property, getting them signed up, tenancy support referrals. What does a typical day in the life of a housing officer look like?
You could have your diary fully booked out, and then it might just take an ASB case to come in on the morning, and then you can never really plan.
What problems do residents and potential residents tend to have in your area?
Debt's a big problem in our area. Residents that have a change in circumstances regarding their income, they're putting them on universal credit, and obviously that means that our residents get a monthly income to themselves, and it's like, should I pay my rent? Or if they've got issues, then they might spend the money on something else. So that's quite a big issue. Turnover's bad as well in the northeast. We have like hard to let areas. I don't suppose you get much of that in
Our
Camberley?
properties are really easy to let. In the south, we don't have we don't struggle to let our properties because we have quite a large waiting list. The minute we have a void on one of our properties, we have a large waiting list of people that are waiting to view that property and move in from the local council. Because I think that's the difference from us down in south. For social rent housing, it's like £400, for example. But for the private sector, you're looking at £850, £900. So the rent difference for the same properties in social is completely different. Whereas I think up north, you can privately rent for the same price you can get social housing for.
You can.
So that's probably why you struggle and we don't, because people don't want to pay £800-900 when they can pay £400 in social housing.
And in the hard-to-let areas, private landlords aren't even asking for a bond no more. Yeah. What do you do? What makes you love this role?
It's nice when you see genuine families come through. It was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. And like I said, we had street homeless couple. And it actually was quite quick, the turnover. So we had a nomination from the local council, for example, on the Monday. We'd done the home visit and the viewing one on the Wednesday, and they signed up for the property on the Friday. And yeah, literally they couldn't believe how quickly the process happened. And like I said, that now have got their accommodation, and like I said, they're so grateful for it. Yeah, it like I said, made a big difference in me, because I left work that day feeling that I've achieved something, that I've given something to somebody. And like I said, they were so grateful for it as well.
You sound like a passionate housing officer like me and a caring person.
It's
not
just
all
really
about just rehousing people, is it? It's about being a caring person as well.
And like I said, changing their lives. And the person that we actually done it for was actually crying on the day she got the keys. So yeah, that feeling when you leave work is really, really good.
What is your name and where have you come from today?
Fiona, and I've come from Bradford. What is your name and where have you come from?
My name is Fran and I'm from Bradford as well.
Have you ever been mistaken for a famous person?
Me or shameless? What was your housing situation like before now, and what got you out of the situation in the end?
It was pretty bad. I'd got myself into some rent arrears and everything when my son left college, but Rachel has really helped me, and it's good now. She's sorted out all my finances and everything, and I'm in a good position now.
What was the happiest moment in moving into your home?
Just the fact that I was waiting for an accent housing house for a while, a proper family home, not private rented, all my repairs done on time and everything, cheap rent, yeah. Can you tell me a bit about how your housing situation has changed recently?
The property that I'm in now, which is Accent, I've lived there 2 years this month. The reason how that came about was because I had more children living with it at the time, but due to age and moving out, the bedroom tax, I'd come from a quite big 3-bedroomed house. I was worrying over rent, not being able to afford the spare bedroom, and I contacted Accent, and because of good character of homes, they got me a property pretty quick, which was more of a relief and a weight off my mind, because it was affecting how I was day to day, because I was just worrying about the extra money, but a child less as well. So it's a lot better. How did you used to see housing associations, and have your experiences changed your view of them?
Yeah, definitely. Not that I looked at them in a negative way before, but I didn't realise that I'd get so much help. I didn't realise that help was available for me. But yeah, Rachel's been like my guardian angel. So
That's nice.
yeah, things that I couldn't have done myself, she's really helped me with. How have those around you helped you out?
Neighbours have actually helped me out quite a lot, because recently I've just had a stay in hospital where I had a big asthma attack at home and pneumonia. The lady on the ground floor has only actually just moved in last September. I only started to know her from November. And one night in January, just after midnight, my 8-year-old found me having an asthma attack at home. And my youngest ran down and got the neighbour, which then my youngest rung the paramedics. And this neighbour took my daughter in and had her for a week. And then when I come home with the breathing machines at home, this neighbour, who's now my best friend, who didn't really know me and I didn't really know her, helped me every morning, get me up, and then at night, we had a joke, she locked me back in at night, but made sure my daughter got to school, and
That's really good.
we had a meal, and now, you know, we're the bestest friends, but they've all just pulled together, and to say I didn't really know and the tenant, and then to put my daughter's sort of like life for a week in her hands, and we've just grown as best friends, like we've known each other for 20 years, so, and it's through accident that happened, otherwise my daughter could have gone into care for a week because I've no family here, so you know they've all pulled together. How are you?
What is your name and where have you come from today?
My name's Zelda Finch and I've come from Peterborough today. What is your name and where have you come from today?
My name's Simon Geddes and I come from Accrington today.
Tell us about the time you met Paul from Accent.
Paul, he came round to my house. They came around to do a sort of an inspection on the property about some maintenance work and that. And the woman came in, she had her badge and all the rest of it. She introduced him as the CEO and said, like, well, where's your badge? You can't come in my house without a badge. But anyway, I let him in without it anyway, so he seemed pretty impressed that I knew to do that. But
Yeah, no, that's cool.
how had your living situation changed over the past year or so?
It's been hard, been very hard, but I've been moved from hostel to hostel to hostel, and then I finally got my house, so, you know what I mean? It's something to go back to, something my own.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you know
I
what I
can
mean?
relate
It's
to that.
changed my life, you
Yeah,
know?
of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need that as a foundation.
Yeah, exactly. How did you become an accent tenant?
I was living in London. I was in a very bad situation. The person who lived downstairs from me threatened to murder me on a number of occasions.
You serious?
Yeah, the police took it seriously, and so I ended up coming up to Accrington, and I ended up getting an accident pretty quickly. So
That's good. Accent's good though.
Yeah.
You look after
Yeah.
people. So
yeah. How did you feel about things back then?
back then, when I was living on the streets, and that was hard, very hard. So I'd done that for about 4 months, and then I came to Peterborough. My friend let me sit on his couch, and we slept there for the night in his building. And then my mate was like, Zelda, enough's enough. We need to get this sorted. So I went to the council. You know, that was tough, very tough. But then went to the council. We done a whole load of forms and stuff. I managed to get myself in Time Stop. And then I went to several different hostels. And then as my bidding number was getting better and better and better, and I thought, yes, mate, I've got my, you know, I went to view something before it, and I thought, nah, I don't want that. And then I went to view that house, and I was like, oh man, I'll never get it. I thought I'll never get this house. And then when they came up to me and they said, you've got the house, I was like, are you serious? I was like, hang on, what are you ringing about? Like, I couldn't quite believe it, you know what I mean? And I was like, brilliant. Was your living situation felt fairly stable ever since, sorry?
Yes,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
A few issues with housing benefit, but that's to be expected. But Accent have been really supportive. You know, they're really easy to communicate with, and they are on your side ultimately.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been really good. And like before, I mean, I was homeless for 15 years before I got a flat in London. And then the flat in London was a nightmare, as you can imagine. And then I was homeless again for a year in Accrington before I got into the flat. But since then, everything's gone brilliantly. My life couldn't be better. I really fell on my feet.
What does it mean to finally have your own home?
Stability, security. I've lived a very transitional life all my life, ever since I left home at 16. And I lived in like caravans and buses and trucks, and then squats, and then I was homeless for a long time. But it makes that difference to be able to know that you've got somewhere, it's there. You know what I mean? It's you know.
You can lock the key and it's still there. Yeah.
You know, it's like I say, it's made a massive difference to my life having that stability there.
What is your name and where have you come from today?
My name is Ava and originally I'm from Latvia, but I've been living in past around 6 months in Accrington, so that's where I'm coming from today.
Okay.
What is your name and where have you come from today?
I'm Tawana and I came from Peterborough today. What do you do?
At the moment I'm just being a parent at home. I'm not working right now, so just a single parent. What do you do?
At the moment I'm on leave, so at the moment I'm not doing anything, but normally I work at the NHS 111. I'm a call handler.
All right, you've been ringing quite a few times there.
Probably spoken to me. Where have you lived in the past few years?
At the start I was just travelling from small flats or rooms, renting a rooms for a temporary time. Recently I was living for about 5 months at my friend's house. About 5 months, and then after that in September I found my flat through the Accent, which is now since September, yes, a few months. Where have you lived in the past year or so?
In the past year I've moved a lot. I was living in a private accommodation, but then my landlord decided that he was going to sell his house. So I've been in and out temporary accommodation through the council until I've got my own flat from Accent now. How stable has your living situation felt over that time?
Depending on which side, well, whilst I was living at my friend's, it was a little bit hard because it feels like I'm on someone's neck because I have to live in someone else's house who are not really my family. Obviously I count them as almost my family because they've accepted me, but it was quite hard at that moment because I really wanted to get in my own place because my little boy was living away from me, so.
It was a bit hard, didn't it?
Yeah.
Stability, fair enough.
What got you out of temporary accommodation at the end?
It was obviously Accent offered me a permanent accommodation because the council really didn't have anything, so that I was in and out. Like I spent a month in one, then they've moved me to somewhere else, so I was literally in my suitcase, me and my little girl, moving from one place to the other every 2 months because either something went wrong or I just had to go. But Accent gave me my permanent flat, so that's what brought me out of it. How do you feel about your future in your home today?
To be fair with Accent, I feel really safe because they've been helping me really a lot. I'm probably going to move to something a bit bigger in some time.
Yeah.
Because I've got now a 2-bedroom flat, but for now it's perfect, and I really feel safe with them because I had to leave my job not long ago. for my child, and they gave me all the support, helping with benefits and everything. So
it's hard when you've got a little one as well, isn't it? It's really hard.
how have those around you helped you get settled into your new home?
Well, my accent has been really helpful because obviously my auntie works and everyone in my family works, so no one really has time out. So they've come around, they've checked out, they actually painted, redecorated, and did I was worried, how am I going to do that? I was trying to budget in everything, but they did all that. Still waiting for them to tile the floor, but they've done that, put in the step, they're just waiting for a check to come back. But they've did everything. They've even helped me buy it was something for the kitchen, I can't remember, but they've done quite a lot. So they've given me a lot of support and help, and it's been great.
Yeah, same was for me as well.
What's your name and where have you come from today?
So I'm Zane, but I've come from sunny Bradford in West Yorkshire. What was the other question?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, was that it?
That's it. You passed. I'm Rebecca Jones and I'm from the flattest part of the country, Peterborough.
And what is it you do?
I work as a housing officer.
Oh, me too.
There you go, that's my next question. What do you do? What does a typical day in the life of a housing officer look like?
Oh, it's busy. It's really busy. But it's just so varied. As a housing officer, you can go from helping someone with the rent 1 minute, the next minute you'll get an urgent call that there's been a domestic violence incident, so you're running across the other side of your area to deal with that, and it sounds a bit cliche, but no 2 days are actually the same in our job, as you'll know yourself. It's crazy, yeah. But what is your role within Accent and what does it entail?
Well, I work as a housing officer and I've been doing that for 13 years. So my job sort of rolls from everything from sort of when you first get somebody coming in, asking for housing, interviewing them, seeing if they're suitable, right the way through to when somebody ends their tenancy or passes away, and you deal with everything from, we're really privileged that you get to deal with everything from that person, from seeing them at their lowest points all the way through their highs, and yeah.
Would you say that within the time you've been a housing officer, the role ever sort of changed?
Yeah, the roles changed massively. When I first started, it was purely, a lot of it was just about housing, whereas now we're a lot more about supporting tenants and dealing with like everything more holistically on an estate, even from helping to set the rents and just everything has changed.
Can you tell me your favourite story when you provided support for somebody?
There's quite a few, but one that's probably the most rewarding is I started working with a tenant about when it was one of the first tenants that I ever had that I met, who he lived in a flat. He had quite complicated mental health issues. He didn't always have the best relationship with us as his landlords, and a lot of that was because of his mental health issues. So it took a long time to get to a point where he trusted us to get the support, and he trusted us to support all of his needs, because his neighbours didn't complain about him, but he could be quite intimidating. And I got to know him quite well over the years. His mental health had sort of deteriorated a little bit, quite a bit, and he'd been in hospital a fair few times. And one of the problems that he had was that he lived in a block of flats. He was in the first floor block of flats, and he honestly believed that people kept breaking into his flat and kept breaking into the front door. So he was always tampering with the locks, changing the locks to the front door, changing the locks to his door. You couldn't keep in touch with him because he would take to part his mobile phone. So you had to be really persistent of keep going around there, carding him, being available in the office, going out to see him. not necessarily 9 to 5 hours that he kept. So it could be quite labour intensive, but we got to a point, once we'd identified that, they said one of the issues was making sure he's got the right money and then moving him to a flat that had its own front door so that he had that security that only he was there. And we did, we got him a 1-bedroom house, which he moved to, and with the help of the tenancy sustainability team, we got it carpeted, we got it furnished, and he lived there. And I mean, the shame for me personally was we sort of lost contact a bit for quite a few years because he was happy. He didn't need that support any longer, which is great. You've done your job, but you sort of feel that you lost it a little bit, but which is great because you have done your job, and that was really rewarding.
But you know, at least you've made such a positive impact on his in your life.
Yeah. And then it was quite a few years later, but he needed our help again, and he got back in touch with us and told us. And again, it was about money and things, but his physical health had deteriorated, and unfortunately, he passed away. What problems do residents and potential residents tend to have in your area?
Again, it's a variety of issues that people tend to have. I mean, a big one at the moment is affordability, and obviously we've sort of price of living increasing every day. You know, we're getting more and more of our tenants who are struggling just with everyday sort of living. So sort of putting that support in place, so looking at the finances and looking at how they can sort of budget, seeing if there's any way that we can sort of increase their actual income coming in. So is there any sort of benefits that they don't know about they're entitled to? Overcrowding is becoming a bit of an issue as well. I mean, you know, families are always growing out, so making sure we get the sort of right type of property for the right types of tenants, that's a big one at the moment as well. I think going back to the affordability, that's going to become a bigger issue with sort of universal credit coming into full force. I know my area sort of June, July is when it's going to be rolled out, so we expect to sort of...
Yeah, we've got it already in Peterborough. Yeah, and it is having an impact. You're finding a lot more people presenting in real crisis situations, and it's sort of important about...
Well, no, not so long ago, I had to drop some food banks off to one of my tenants, and it was a little bit heartbreaking that I had to do that. But again, you know, once we got universal credit sorted out and the money was coming in, and obviously like, depreciation she showed, you know, it does. It's
nice.
Doesn't it?
It's nice to think that you can help someone sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel and get them there. But it's like you said, it's hard. It's hard to having to drop food bank vouchers off to people and take them food and things. But you know, you might be the only person that they've spoken to about that. So it's great if you can help.
What is your name and where have you come from today?
My name's Pete and I've come up from Camberley in Surrey.
My name's Karen and I've travelled up from Broughton near Saltburn by the Sea.
Where have you lived in the past few months?
I've been living in Broughton in an affordable home from Accent Housing.
So where's your husband at the moment, your partner?
Well, he's an Australian citizen and he's retired, and I'm British born, but he had to return to Australia to apply for a spousal visa because of immigration law. So we're really struggling financially to get the money together to get him back so that he can apply for the visa. So he's staying in a male hostel type of situation over there. And I'm here, waiting for him to come back and not knowing if they'll grant him the visa or not, basically.
You've got it a little bit harder than me and Sue had it.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it, when you're trying to keep a relationship together either, and
No, it was...
a lot of stress on a relationship, a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it was awkward because, like, my partner was sofa surfing. I was living out of my car, and my boss was letting me stay at the office at night when it was cold. When we first became homeless, my boss put us up in a hotel for a couple of nights.
What does it mean to be finally under the same roof as your partner?
It means the world.
To be together again?
Yeah.
Place of your own?
Sorry, guys.
Are you okay? Do you want some water or something?
Oh dear. Oh dear. What will it mean to you to be back with your partner when he comes back?
Yeah, the same. It'll mean the world to me. But it's, you know, it's early days for me, really.
Yeah.
We've only been separated a couple of weeks, so. But yeah, I'm looking forward to him coming home. It's not easy being apart.
Oh, no. Yeah, definitely not.
What got you out of that situation in the end?
It was actually Paul, our housing officer, who got us out of this situation. He was very good. What got you out of that situation?
We were staying in a bed and breakfast, but running out of money. So, yeah. Donna from Accent, I contacted her and we managed to secure the lease there in Broughton.
I hope that your partner's back soon.
So do I.
Because I want to see you feeling the same way as me.
What about you? What is a typical day in the income recovery officer?
It's a really difficult one to explain, to be honest, because people just assume that you're there to evict people, kick them out, you know, just challenging for rent all the time. There's a lot more that goes into it. I mean, by the time it's come to us, obviously it's gone through yourself as a housing officer. You've been through the contact centre, you've done all that sort of work. And majority of the time, people coming to us who don't want to engage, who might be in pretty dire circumstances, personal circumstances, who are at breaking point. Our role is basically, you know, we've got to get in and try and speak to these people and try and get them to open up a little bit. You do get people who just won't engage, and you know, there's a reality to that, you know, when it comes to further action, etc., court action and evictions and stuff. But that's the last thing we want. What we're going out to do is try and engage them, try and find out what the issues are and put support in place where we can. I mean, since I've been doing my role and then gone to the management role, we've changed massively. As you know, working for Accent, we've massively changed. It's now more support with enforcement.
Yeah,
I'd call it. I wouldn't just say we're there to enforce rent collection, enforce debt or anything like that. We are really there to help people. And a lot of the better part of our job now is working as closely as we do with housing officers. And you know, getting involved and really finding out, because a lot of people will actually start engaging with you once you turn around and say your home's at risk, etc. They get those sort of letters through the door. Once they engage, you can put a lot of support in. Can you tell me your favourite story of when you have provided help or support to a tenant?
I looked this particular account, and there'd been no contact and things. So we'd tried to contact and no contact. So because they were at a certain level, I served a notice of seeking possession. And so I delivered this notice, and this lady contacted me and said, "Can you come and see me?" So I was like, "Yep, no problem." So I went out to see her, and from somebody just being in rent arrears, which people might think, oh, they're in rent arrears, the whole situation just flipped. She had 2 small children. She was studying over here. She was originally from Morocco, so she had no family. She was fleeing domestic violence. Her ex-partner had tried to, as part of the control, had tried to kill himself in the property, not succeeded. So obviously she was distraught. Her benefits were wrong. She was really low. So I said to her, right, okay, let's just take one thing at a time. So I contacted the local domestic violence in York and said, can somebody, I asked her if she was happy for me to do that. She said, yeah. So I passed the number on, and I explained so that she didn't have to. I explained everything. And I said, can you contact her? We were doing a thing at Christmas for sort of people in need for hampers. And obviously this lady had 2 small children, so I nominated her within the region to get a hamper. And I put a few things in there myself because she had 2 small boys. But we took it to her, and she was just so overwhelmed because she had absolutely nothing. And I remember doing a drop-in centre just in between Christmas and New Year, and she came to me with a Christmas card, and she gave me a Christmas card, and I always remember that felt really special to me.
What's your name and where do you come from?
Well, I'm called Amanda and I come from Baxenden near Accrington. What's your name and where do you come from?
I'm Gemma and I come from Cambridge. What do you do?
I'm a practice nurse in a GP surgery.
Do you enjoy it?
Love it. Absolutely love it.
That's good. Can you tell me what the past few months have been like for you?
What happened was, over 2 months ago, we sadly lost my father, and they were so blissfully happy in the flat that they was in, and then all those memories Mum had, and that loneliness and really isolation. She didn't see people unless we was going to visit. She did feel very insecure, very nervy, didn't go out, and really now to move and get that independence and loving where she is now has really, really turned her life around and give her that, to yearn now to continue living, even though it's a very hard time at the moment.
At what point did you know you were going to be happy and well looked after in your new home?
I knew the point. It's quite upsetting, really, when you hear your mother say, I'm so happy, I love it here. And it still makes me feel very tearful, not for sadness, but for happiness, knowing that she's in a fabulous place now, and she can do things now, and the companionship of the other residents and the activities, but most of all, she's happy and hearing her laugh.
That's good. At least you know that she's not dwelling on what could have been.
She can move forward a little now, have her special memories, but also
start her chapter of life in her new house. Oh, that's good.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
And how did you find with you before? Was it?
Well, it was quite a rough journey. So, beginning of last year, my mum's dad fell poorly, and then my cousin, in the space of about 2 weeks, found out he had got leukemia. So it was pretty much go, go, go from there. My granddad was in and out of hospital, and then my cousin was in for constant treatment for 3 months. Then my granddad passed away while he was in hospital, and then he left his house to my cousin, and then he was home for about 2 weeks, and then back in again because the treatment wasn't working, so he had to go for more in-depth treatment. I house sat for him for 6 months, and then when he was well enough to come home just before Christmas, I had to move into my dad's house, so it was pretty much everything just went all over the place. And then just before Christmas, I got a phone call about viewing my flat, and I just couldn't believe it. Like, everything that I thought was going wrong wasn't going wrong anymore. It just had changed, and the tables had turned, and I viewed my own flat, and I couldn't believe it. No. It was somewhere that my little girl was going to have as a home, and I wasn't treading on anybody's toes. I mean, I'm so grateful for my dad to take me in at such an unexpected time, and to have us living there. And then I moved in just after in the new year, and it's been the most amazing 6 weeks.
It's just, you can't believe it, can you?
I was so grateful. I couldn't wish it at a better time. Like, it made my Christmas. I mean, everything that was going wrong was going wrong, and I just was so happy that I was getting my own flat, and I couldn't believe it at first until I got my keys, and I was like, actually, this is mine. This is going to be my home with my baby, and I thought that would never happen. Well, not for a long time anyway. And then within 2 weeks, I viewed it, got the keys, moved in, and I'm so grateful that I've had the help that I've had from my housing officer from day one. It's just been amazing help. If I needed anything, she was at the end of the phone, and I couldn't thank anyone more.
It's
really.
marvellous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
We felt like giggling school kids.
Yeah, it's just one of the things that it just makes a huge difference, like being your own person, and it's certainly brought my daughter out of her shell, and she's just such a bubbly child. I'm so grateful for it. Yeah, it's
You've
amazing.
got that with your little baby, and I've got that with my
mum.
mum.
It's like a new lease of life.
Yeah.
It's great.
Okay.
How have those around helped?
Oh, the people, the input, the management, the housing officer, the resident manager, everybody has just been there. Everything's all been organised. Any questions we've had answered or looked into for us. I just cannot believe how really looked after that mum and me as well being involved as well, involving me. And it's really reassured me now and changed my perspective on housing association. Not worry, no worry. I just can't believe it. It's been absolutely brilliant.
That's good.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about
No. And knowing that they're there for any future worries or concerns, mum can just ring up or go downstairs. It's just absolutely brilliant. I'm really, really chuffed.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay.
What does a typical day in the life of a housing officer look like?
Well, one of the reasons I like the job is because every day is different, as you know. So some days I'll be dealing with people who have serious rent arrears, which sounds like a really big problem, but the kind of support Accent puts in, we can make that not a problem for tenants. So that can be a really good, worthwhile day. Another day it could be something totally different. We could be rehoming somebody who's been homeless or somebody who's had a relationship breakdown and thinks that nothing's going to work right for them. We can put all that support in and absolutely change that person's life around. So every day is different and no day is ever typical. It's never the same day, which is why I love doing the job. Why do you do what you do and what makes you love this role?
I do it because I like helping people. I love giving people a home. I love giving people a roof over their head. I just think if you don't have a home to go home to, how can you live? It must be so difficult for people that don't have a roof over their head. How do they continue life? You know, how do you hold down a job? How do you maintain relationships? How do you maintain your mental health? I think the most rewarding part of my job is giving someone the keys, because that's when they can then begin their life or continue their life. I just think a roof over your head is just the pinnacle, isn't it? Everyone needs a home.
Absolutely
you
agree.
need somewhere to feel safe. You need somewhere to call home.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. What gives you the most job satisfaction?
I think the most job satisfaction to me is similar to what you just said. I love it. I mean, a lot of my friends are always posting nonsense on Facebook about, oh God, it's the weekend and Monday's coming round and stuff like that. Whereas I look forward to Mondays. Yeah. It's very sad and very geeky, but I really do look forward to it. And many times I'll be driving home at night where I've just done what you've done. I've just signed a tenant up or a relationship break or domestic violence or something where children have been separated from the family, where we put them all back together and they can't believe, you know, we can furnish properties for people, we can carpet them. I mean, I just signed a bloke up for a house last week who's been homeless. He'd been sleeping in his tent and he's turned up to the sign up with both his bags with him. And I said, are you moving in today? And he said, yes, I'm moving in right now. This is it. Yeah. He'd no curtains, he'd no cooker, he'd no carpets, he'd no TV, he'd nothing of them essentials that we all consider basics that we just assume people have a lot of the time. And right there and then we assessed the rest of his support needs and we ordered him carpets there and then. We've got one of our staff has donated a 2-seater leather settee to him and a double bed. Yeah. We've got him cutlery and stuff donated by other members of staff. And he was like, why are you buying us these carpets? Do I have to pay you back for these carpets? And we're like, no. And we rang United Carpets while we were there and arranged the measure up that same day, and they were fitting them the day after, so we only had one night to do without any carpets. And as I drove home that night, I thought, he can't believe what's just happened. No. You know, and he's like, wow, you know, they've done all this for me and I don't have to pay for these carpets directly. I'm like, no, you don't. We want you to sustain this tenancy, so we need to help you. Yeah. And if we just walk out and leave you with cold concrete floors, you're going to be on a friend's couch again, sofa surfing, because it's too cold to put your gas on, because it's going to go in 2 minutes because you're freezing all the time. So, you know, although it looks like we're just being mega helpful to you, we're doing it as a business case as well, to support the tenancy and make sure we keep that property lived in, which is what we're about at the end of the day, not just, you know, getting the properties full. We want to help our tenants and support the tenancies.
Tell me something that not a lot of people know about you.
I'm a single mother. I've got learning difficulties and I have 2 children with learning difficulties.
What's your favourite song?
Now you're asking me. Boyzone Words.
Oh, good song. Can you tell me a bit about your life in your old home?
I would say my life in my old home was a bit of a mess. A bit of a struggle, making me unhealthy. I wasn't living well.
And where do you think you'd be now, Kate, if you didn't?
I think if I wasn't with you lot, I think I'd be living on the street by now. You know, being a totally, oh, don't know, probably, I don't even know if I'd still alive by now. I'd be totally on the street. You know, rock bottom, I would have thought. So, yeah.
So you're much happier now?
Oh, yeah. I love where I am. I love being near the shops. I'm happy and content. The flat's just what I need, so yeah. So thanks very much.
You're welcome.
If you knew any, what advice would you give to people who came to you in the first place?
The advice that I would give somebody is always open the door. The worst thing that you can do is ignore it. Mm-hmm. The best thing you can do is speak to us, because we're here to help ultimately. The last thing we wanted to do was evict you, and we could only help you if you opened the door. So you opening the door that day meant that we could get to know you and know your situation and be able to help you. Because the last thing we want you to do is lose your home. We want to keep you in your home. So, and we've got so much support, as you know, that we can offer. And it's just opening the door, letting us in. Your life's changed considerably now, hasn't it?
Much happier, much healthier.
Yeah.
I'm in a nice neighbourhood. I'm handy to town. So, yeah. Give me confidence to go out more now.
Yeah. Did you not have that confidence before?
No. And you know, thanks for your help, I've got my belt and bus pass, so, yeah, I'm a very independent lady.
Your case was quite complex, and you had quite complex needs, and we established that very quickly. And I loved helping you in your case because I see now how happier you are and how your life has changed so much, and the benefits that you feel from that. All the different applications that we do to help you, we do for a reason, and that's to keep you in your home. So helping you with your debts, helping you to not be evicted. That's what gives me the get up and go to get out of bed every day and come out and help people like yourself that are struggling. And that's why I love my job, and that's why I work for Accent.